Oh,
Okay.
welcome everyone to another installment of Inside the Artist Studio. Okay, so it is December 15th, and if you are watching this recording, today was one of the windiest days, and not only here, but in Kansas and I mean, everywhere. It was just powers out, everything is just nuts. That is the reason that we have had technical difficulties this evening and are 11 minutes late in starting. But I know, but as promised, this one's going to be really good. The best one I've done yet. So are you ready? Okay. Yeah. So 2 out of 3 of the artists on this call have been doing the core show longer than I have. And this is my 26th core show.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Yeah. Well, okay. So guess who? Maybe we'll have a little quiz at the end of this. I know. So don't tell. Don't give it away, you guys. Tonight, Scott Frazier. I'm so excited. Scott Frazier, who is incredibly outgoing and really hard to pin down and just, no. Scott, you're probably one of the shyest people I've ever met in my life. No. So this is really just pretty amazing to get you. And I just really appreciate it. On the flip side of the shy meter are my good friends, Willie Matthews and Barbara Van Cleve, who have never met a person who wasn't a friend instantly. And it looks like Willie's off, and I'm sure he'll be back on. So anyway, yes, so we are going to dive right in. So these 3 artists that I'm talking to this evening are just true veterans of the art scene. You bring a lot to the table, you bring a lot to the show. This is not false flattery, you make me look good every year. People come in and they're like, whoa, Barbara Van Cleve, Willie Matthews, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'm just really lucky, right? But anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with you, Scott.
Okay.
And I'm going to shine a spotlight on you. Barbara, Willie, stay where you are. And I will be getting to you shortly. So Scott, sitting in your studio in Northern Colorado, and it is so good to see your studio. And for those of you who've had the chance to see Scott's studio, it's just in this beautifully restored house. Every detail is just a work of art, and it's so inspiring. And then you walk into the studio and there's always something on the easel and something going on, and it's really inspiring. And you know what, I'm just going to start with my first question.
Frog skeleton.
Exactly, the frog skeleton. Yeah, right.
It's a gift from Dan Sprick, by the way.
Okay, so this is not a surprise either. I was just about to say, are you channeling Dan Sprick? And no, he just went ahead and
gave it to me maybe 25 years ago.
Oh, seriously?
So.
Oh, wow. So you just, wow. So why now? Why are you just firing it up now?
Well, I have a big case and I have all these objects in it, and it really intimidated me.
Oh,
that's why. So it was time.
Yeah.
And this is the second piece in the series. So,
wow. Okay.
It's real long. See, it's eating bugs.
Oh, are the bugs?
My daughter helped me set this up too. So.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
So are the bugs?
We were laughing about it when we did it. Oh. So.
Okay, that is the thing. That is the thing that I really want to talk to you about with your work in particular, because here you are, this artist who, and you're collected in museums and you're in these books and you're just, and I think somebody, an outside person who didn't know you might think, oh my gosh, he's probably just so hard to talk to or whatever. But your work has this wry sense of humor in almost everything. Where does that? A lot.
One piece in Coors has a sense of humor. The others are more contemplative,
Yeah, but like the one behind you, I mean, here's this frog skeleton who's eating
bugs that I found on my studio floor over a period of a year.
Oh, of course.
And they're on little, they've got pins in them, of course, and then they're elevated with a piece of styrofoam. So it's like a snack. And I, been fishing all my life, and I'm always intrigued by bullfrogs and what they eat. So he could eat this whole lineup, except the end one I'm not going to show you.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a giant wasp.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't eat he wouldn't eat? I thought bullfrogs ate just about everything.
Well, this one would probably kill him. It's not a murder hornet, it's a locust hornet, and they're huge. So
oh, wow.
Anyhow.
Wow. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to do a screen share, and I want to look at the work that you have in the show. And I really want to talk about with each of you inspiration in particular for the show. And I think this is an interesting lineup of artists today, because you're working in oil in a really hyper realist sense. Barbara Van Cleve, of course, photography, and always experimenting with her work. And then Willie Matthews in watercolor, and somebody again who just really doesn't play within the boundaries of things. So all three of you are those artists who are constantly pushing the medium forward, which is a lot of fun as a curator, and I would hope as collectors, to kind of be in on what's the latest that's coming out of the studio. So this one here, Josine's Nest?
Josine's Nest, yes. I have a lot of people who kind of are interested in my career, and Josine brought this over for me. It's a robin nest, but she said doves took it over for a couple of years. And what appealed to me about the piece was this spiral that you can see run through the center of it. And I was going to sculpt little robin eggs and put them in like I have done in the past, but it just didn't seem to be the right thing. So I thought a deviled egg would work.
Yeah, right.
So it just had zing. It was magical when I put it in. And a lot of times I'll let objects evolve over a year just sitting on a table.
Yeah.
And this was one of those things that just, to paint that empty nest just didn't work for me. So I was looking for something to kind of have a draw. And I really like the way the spiral echoes the big spiral.
Yeah.
Just, it appealed to me. And
And the devil's egg, a commentary on the bird getting shoved out of its nest, or?
No.
No.
It just, my framer gave me a plastered deviled egg, which I've used in other paintings. And it was sitting on the table near the nest. And I thought, well, I'm going to try that object in there. So a lot of times I'll rotate objects in and out of my still lifes to see if they work. And this one just, hit me.
Okay, so many questions. So the the obvious one. So people just give you like
Yes.
little object? Yeah.
Well, like the skeletons, they know I like skeletons and bugs and rocks and things, so they'll bring them. And I kind of store some of them, or I have them out displayed, and I kind of rotate things out on my tables. And when things come into my narrative, that I think I can use, I'll pursue it.
So how long was this bird's nest sitting, in the studio before you finally decided to paint it?
Oh, well, she gave it to me probably in the spring.
Oh,
So, it was sitting there on a white table for quite a while. And then, I just met the deadline with this piece. So it took a while to work it into my schedule. And, I schedule pieces sometimes on my calendar, and this fell in for course.
really?
I thought it would work well with the other two pieces that were kind of a pair.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, humor. So introducing humor in the work. I mean, a lot of your work does have it's sort of there's something to think about, something to that, you're kind of walking by going, oh, that's great. Wait, what? Right. So,
Right. Yeah.
so does that just kind of come over time, or is that your personality?
I don't know, Rose. When I started out, I didn't know where I would end up, but I just kind of try to keep pushing the boundaries
Mhm.
for myself, so it keeps things interesting. I've got to have a reason to get up, and I've got lots of concepts and a lot of things to work with, and I try and work out things that interest me over
Yeah.
time, and it has changed. And I like the fact that things evolve. I like
So how have
that.
yeah, how have things changed over time?
Well, and when I was in art school, it was um, there were copy works, and it was
Mhm.
traditional on one end, and then very non-objective on another. So I got a, had a lot to work out in my early years, but I ended up as a landscape painter and painted Longmont,
Oh,
um, which I've lived in for years. And I did the farmland, not the mountains, but I leave that to other people who really know what they're doing. But then I did portraiture as well, but I have a few color issues. So I left that and worked my way to still life because it
oh.
just kind of appealed to me.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I think people love still life or just really walk past it. And I think
Yeah.
the reason, yeah, but you know what, don't you that like I think the reason is that still life, I think the what the French term nature mot, the dead nature is, I mean,
Hmm.
sometimes they're dead paintings. And so,
Well,
that,
in
yeah,
art history, the portraits are revered, and then landscape is second on that list, and then still life is last. So I'm happy to be last.
coming in last, right? But hardly, right? I mean, there's so many different things. And so in this particular painting, and you're talking about these circular, it almost has this infinity, ellipsis kind of
Right,
elliptical sign, right?
right.
Um, in a lot of your work, even though, in some artists' work, you can really see brushstrokes, or you can really see sort of things that come into it. Definitely yesterday's talk, there was a lot of conversation about brushwork and flow and how,
Mm.
right, you're actually using these natural elements to do something
Mm.
unique with them. I wonder if you would kind of talk about that with this, because it seems like some of it is just naturally happening, but what part is you? I mean, it's all you, but
Well, all of it, I'm not sure I know how to clarify. Um, are you talking technically, or are we talking?
I think more, well, sure, technically there's a design. I mean, and there's just a really strong design in this piece, right? But I also think there's something that there's a dialogue happening in this piece in a
Hmm.
different way.
Well, I take
Um,
that as a compliment. I just try and accurately paint what I see, and I have to let make some decisions, where to create an element of focus and where to let edges go and where to focus and what to bring out. Since I don't work from photos, I have to kind of make decisions for how to make the painting speak on its own. Because my daylight changes all the time, so a piece like this would take weeks, and I have to make a decision. Well, do I want a brighter appearance to it, or do I want the cloudy day, the more subtle? And as I work, I kind of figure out how to punch things up and push things back and lose edges, so I kind of draw the viewer in to my piece the best way I can. Does that answer your question?
No, it does. It does. And what really comes to mind in that respect is that probably from walking past this nest all summer and fall, and then when the composition and the deviled egg and all that kind of stuff came together, I think a lot of the painting was already done in a sense.
Yeah, but that's not the hard work.
Well, then the rest is just the labor, right? The rest is the labor,
have to
right?
make it interesting. Otherwise, I would photograph it, and I would
right.
leave that expertise to people like Barbara.
Yes, exactly.
But the challenge for me is actually painting it, and I think that there's a sense of me in the work and how I paint. It's hard to describe.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna click over to the other two, but I also just want to point out something that is, when we're talking about nature mode and the dead nature kind of concept and how it really does have this, it's a finality to it. But I think you're doing something that's so fascinating with this nest. And I think to me, it's a lot of it's like right here. Well, because it feels like the wind has just sort of knocked some
It was there.
yeah.
And I added dirt and subtracted it and kind of made it so that it was appealing to the eye. And I put in and remove, but that stayed. I like that little root thing, whatever it was. It really drew me to it. When I literally put the nest down, it had these two spirals. I wanted to capture that to the best of my ability.
Wow.
And there's that little dust ball coming off the root. I thought that's magical. These little funny touches all around the piece.
Yeah. So kind of in a lot of ways, but I mean, it just sort of seems, in essence, that the really kind of the being quiet and patient with the still life is just such an integral part of your process.
Mm-hmm.
So August plums, were these yours? Were they off?
My son's in-laws own a plum tree in Boulder, and I go back again and again for subject matter. And I got a hold of these before the bears did, because usually the bears get in the tree.
Really?
I picked them and put them in a big bucket to keep them hydrated. That's a big part with these pieces, keeping them hydrated. I have to kind of build little baggies and put them on the end of the stems so the leaves don't wilt over a period of a week or so. And that's always a challenge, because I kind of build an armature that I don't paint, but it supplies water to the leaves, and that's the biggest challenge. That's what I hit up first on a painting like that. But I love plums, and I'm fortunate that I've got a good one close, that a good tree that I go to again and again for subject matter.
So, okay. So if things wilt or die, or if, your wife walks past and grabs a plum and eats it? What happened?
I've actually, I had a cockatoo and she used to steal crackers out of my work, So things evolve.
Yeah,
I've had things roll out and break, so I
yeah.
have to figure it out. I almost lost my frog skeleton the other day. I have a big pole that opens and shuts my ceiling skylights, and it fell. I caught it just before it hit, so I would have been mad with that one. But things do change. But my wife doesn't usually eat the fruit I'm painting.
Okay. Yeah. I
She's good about that.
think she knows by now, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
okay, and this is Rogers Grove. So is this the same for the
Uh,
apples?
no, this is from a park that I walk. My wife and I go on nice walks down by the river, the St. Vrain River, and this is from a public apple orchard, and we picked these midsummer. That's why they're so green, and it really appealed to me, the color. And we did actually, when they turned red, we made applesauce out of
Oh, nice.
a big batch we collected later. But
Wow.
again, I like painting these. They're really challenging, and um, the leaves are certainly the most challenging because they just don't hold still.
Yeah.
The fruit does. So I have a little more time on the fruit.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So if you wouldn't mind, stay put. I am going to click over to Willie Matthews and shine a spotlight on you.
Rose.
How are you?
I'm good. Sorry for the kind of screw ups in the beginning.
Oh, no, it's the wind. It's just the wind. I'm surprised I think anything not duct taped down is in Topeka by now. Pretty sure.
We had serious wind early this morning up at a
Yeah.
place up in the mountains. It was, the snow and the wind was phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, it was
Really
just,
incredible.
yeah, it was shocking. Okay, wait, I've got some comments here. I'm going to read these from Michael. What is the dark picture over Scott's right shoulder? It looks magical. What is that, Scott, over your shoulder?
It's Cheerios falling out of the sky onto narwhal puppets, and they're balancing on a teeter-totter. It's part of another series I've worked on.
Are you glad you asked, Michael? Because there's your
Yeah,
answer.
did that answer the question?
Okay,
They're glued to the glass. They kind
They're
of
good.
float glass, and then I slowly figure out where they're at in space and paint them.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Hey, Michael, I'm going to read some of your comments when we let me get through Willie here. And then Michael's got a few more questions for you, Scott, but, okay. So Willie, yeah, this year, you know what? I'm
Hi,
just,
Barbara.
I have her on mute too. Okay. I'm just gonna tell tales out of school. Willie has been redoing a historic home and not been in the studio as much, right?
Well, that's partially true. I've had the house has been another project,
Yeah.
but I've had a lot of projects this year as Scott, I'm sure, and Barbara, I'm sure. Some are painting projects and some are renovation, and
Mhm.
I don't know. I've done a bunch of album covers this year, and
Oh, you have? Oh, really? Oh. So, okay, for those of you who don't know, that's really where you got your start, right?
well, that was the first thing that I pursued to make a living. When I was 19, I moved down to Hollywood and started I ended up starting to work at Capitol Records and worked at Warner Brothers and did a bunch of different projects, and still do album covers and still do a lot of different kinds of projects that I find interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do a screen share because that's definitely, you're going to have to talk about one piece in particular in the show. But I'm going to start with one. And this is off the grid. This is a friend of yours, Waddy Mitchell. This painting is really, for a watercolor, this is a big painting. 46 and a half tall, 36 wide. And I saw this painting at your studio 2 years ago, I think, maybe. And I really wanted it. So I wanted it for the show. I mean, I want it personally, but I really wanted this painting in the show. And I wanted it last year, but you and I talked about it, and I definitely didn't want it in an online only show.
Right.
This is a painting that you have to stand in front of, you need to experience. This painting is absolutely stunning. And I have said this numerous times. I'm going to say it again on this recording. This painting belongs in a museum. And it is just spectacular. And so what I want to do is have you talk about this painting and tell us about Waddy Mitchell and this setting that you have put him in.
Well, I wanted to do an unromantic sort of formal portrait of the honesty of how difficult it is living out off the grid and living in wilderness. And as Barbara knows well, it is not particularly romantic a lot of the time. You're not always horseback on a beautiful morning with the smell of sage. This is my old friend Waddy Mitchell, who lives off the grid and really depends on himself to survive, for he and his wife. And this is in his shed, where he has to process the water that comes out of the ground, which is essentially sludge, until it's been filtered and refiltered. He's got a 1.5 mile long road that he has to plow. That's a very rough, steep road. And I wanted a painting of Waddy showing all of that intensity and difficulty and exhaustion from doing the work that has to be done to survive. So he has chains under his foot. He's covered in snow, and he's exhausted. And it's sort of the antithesis of the romantic cowboy that everybody thinks of Western art as being. And like so many challenges and so many instinctive responses that many of us artists have, it's to do the unpredictable and to do the contrary. At least it is for me. And so I'm constantly trying to figure out how to retell the stories and to do them in an original way. So,
Willie, what you're saying is curatorially exactly what I'm after in a Western show, is to take a look at today, what it's like today. and to romanticize Waddy Mitchell's life or anybody's life, or Barbara, my goodness, your life and your ranch hands and what it takes to keep that lifestyle going. I think it's a disservice, right? And and I'm thinking about the paintings that we had from you 2 years ago, that won Best of Show, and just spectacular paintings, and the Setting the Fire line, and and a number of those pieces that I can't tell you, I don't know if our volunteers told you, but so many people walked in. We had firefighters walk in and cowboys walk in and said, I can't believe a show has work that in it that represents what we actually do. And so it was a high compliment. And and I hope they told you that, but too, this painting of Waddy Mitchell, from the second I saw it in your studio, I could not get it out of my head. And I have talked about it to collectors for years. So I'm just thrilled to have it. And I can't wait for you to see it in the gallery. And for everybody who is listening to come see this painting in the gallery, because you just experience it, right? You just feel it. I mean, it's really amazing. So,
Thank you.
and let me see, I don't want to give away my little quiz, but I don't have any prize package, so I might as well just say Waddy Mitchell is the subject of the first Coors Western Art Exhibit and Sale.
He is, exactly. And he even came out that year and signed posters with me.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah.
Someone was telling me that they said that and they got to meet Waddy Mitchell. I'm like, oh, incredible. And he's also a cowboy poet. Is he a cowboy poet?
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well represented and well published, and
Yeah.
but he's wonderful. Barbara
Okay.
as well.
Okay, so is this a little bit of a throwback to the record albums, Confidant?
Well, it is, interestingly enough, when I moved out here to Colorado in 1972, Dana Crawford asked me to do a show down in Larimer Square, which I did in 1973. And I had never done a show of paintings before, but I'd been designing album covers and doing a lot of hand lettering. So I ended up doing paintings with lettering. And I did 54 paintings with lettering for that show. And I've been adding type and lettering of different kinds to paintings ever since. And so this is one of those paintings. And, it is what it says, but that there's also an element of irony. And I try to use the language and the type in to complement the painting, not just reiterate it. To bring something different and hopefully revealing to it. So no, and again, it's just, I mean, kind of to your point, if it's not a good painting, type is not going to help it. And so well, I love language, and I think using language with paint is to me is always exciting.
Well, this is interesting because I don't know if you know this about Barbara Van Cleve, but she was an English major in college.
I didn't know that about Barbara.
Yes. Yes. So mind your P's and Q's.
I always do around her.
I know, right? And Winter Range. These paintings, Willie, I love standing in front of these paintings with people because they're like, oh gosh, this, they talk about the cold, they talk about the range, they talk about moving cat, they just wonder who the cowboy is. And to me, I always just kind of smile and chuckle a little bit because they like flow right along with you. And let me see if I can do this, but when you expand these paintings out, these are just like, just these little dots. And everybody is like, oh, those cows moving through the range, right? I mean, these are just little dots of your brush, right? But it's just so, it's so amazing. And I always just think it's so much fun that, you know, people who would readily say, oh, I don't like that abstract, so I don't know what that's going on at all, that crazy stuff. And it's like, this painting is almost all abstract shapes that people look at and they're like, oh, look at those cows trudging through the snow, right? And it's this fun balance that I think you bring to the show with your work, in particular with the watercolor, and how you say so much with very few brushstrokes in a lot of different passages, especially in this painting.
Thank you. I like to be as kind of brisk as possible and to let a minimum of brushstrokes tell the story. And you know, unlike Scott, I like less detail, and I like kind of a broad, I don't know, a broad design. That is, you know, my mother was a very abstract painter, and that's something that always, she started out as a portrait painter, but then as we moved to the Bay Area, she became under the influence of Stephen Korn and David Parks and the Bay Area abstract expressionists. And so that I kind of grew up in her studio seeing all of that. And so I think my paintings are kind of moving farther into that looseness.
Yeah, I think so. And so Michael Smith has put in the chat, his watercolors are very no traditional, not traditional, because of both the size and the crispness of the detail. How did he get to those points? You know, and I think it's an interesting thing, and I would love for you to speak to that. How did you get to this? And so you mentioned your mother, who was a big influence, and for her whole life, right? But also, I think you went to art school for about 5.5 seconds.
I went to the San Francisco Art Institute for 1 year, and it was in the 60s, and it was chaos, and it wasn't what I was looking for, and I didn't stay very long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so, you know, I think it's interesting because people will ask me, you know, how much importance does one put on the college education or the art school and things like that? And I think you are case in point. And actually Barbara too, with a, you know, an English degree. And I'm gonna ask you more about that, Barbara, but you know,
I think the biggest thing that my mother taught me is how to see, is how to look. She was constantly telling us how to squint our eyes and to see shape and to see shadow and to see form. And I see Scott nodding. You know, to me, that's what you learn to do as an artist. You know, you may have a teacher that teaches you that, or you may not. But to me, you know, it's the same with Barbara. Barbara is out there and she's looking and seeing. What she's seeing is what she brings to the party.
right. Well, and what a gift too, that we have all this amazing art. And, you know, Scott, how many people walk past those plums and those apples and don't think twice about them, right? And, you know, and just these little gestures and this, you know, these motions, or even to bring Waddy Mitchell into a scene and a setting like you have, you know, to just help people, I think, in a way, slow down and ask some questions and maybe breathe a little bit in front of it and kind of learn something that they were maybe taken for granted.
Yeah, and on the other hand, and also Scott is really funny.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
There's
there are a lot of different things that any of us bring to the party.
Mhm.
It's very hard to paint funny.
Yes. It's
I
hard
can
to
tell you,
write
it's
funny
very
too.
hard,
Yes. It's hard to write funny. It's hard to paint funny.
hard to write funny, and
Thanks.
it's hard to paint funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Now,
that's exactly right.
hey, Willie, is this one? I know this is a watercolor, but were we getting some little oil? You did some little oils on
I
paper?
did, yeah, I didn't get
Ah.
it to you. This is watercolor.
Okay.
I was, yeah, I was doing a bunch of little oil sketches on watercolor paper, and but I didn't get any to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, next time. I know we were talking about them, and that's sort of that's a fun thing I know you were playing with, is that oil, the pigment stays in place, but the oil actually seeps into the paper,
Yeah.
which creates some really
Sort of a
interesting.
halo, yeah.
Yeah, so next time, but these are just these wonderful little gestural pieces that we have in the show too. That'll be up for the silent auction aspect. So, okay, so those of you who are hanging on or who are there on this call, I'm gonna stop the screen share here for a second. We're gonna zip over to Barbara, and we're just gonna go over our time, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, so I'm going to kick this off. Michael Smith put in our chat, I have had Barbara's Coors poster hanging in every office I have had since that show. Growing up in Craig, the northwest corner of Colorado, we always had the mountains in the east. No sense of Craig. Let's see. No sense of Craig as home. Did not include the sense of Craig at home. Did include two things: the majesty of the mountains looming over everything, constantly reminding us that God created mountains to dwarf us, and huge expanses of open land providing a challenge to our everyday living. Her work, your work, Barbara, always reminds me of how hard it must have been as an early pioneer or homesteader. Well, interesting, Michael, that you would say that to Barbara. I just go. That's teed up right for you, Barbara.
Well, I've came up with several things here in listening to all of this. Number one, if only I could have drawn or painted or done any of that traditional art, I would have never picked up a camera, but I had no ability in those areas. And I saw Life magazine. I thought, that's what I need. I need a camera. So I was 11, begged for one, got it. And that has been my medium since then. And I learned to see, not by looking at other photographs, but by looking at traditional art. And I gotta say, Willie blows me away with his ability to take a white sheet of paper, or maybe it's cream colored, and out of that, he, with kind of the reverse of Rembrandt, he brings an image. And I just am blown away by that ability, the person to be able to see what he or she wants. But in this case, it's a he. It's that wonderful Willie Matthews. He's got it in watercolor, and I love it. And it's looking at traditional art that taught me to see, as well as, Willie, it was my dad, not mother, who taught me to see. Strong, strong influence. We'd be out riding, gathering cattle, and on a winter's day, and I might be freezing as a kid, and he'd say, oh, come on, look at the mirage over there, or look at this little pile of, oh, it was wonderful. It was just kind of a miniature tornado, kind of, or dust devil, so to speak, but it was a snow devil, and it was lit by the morning light, and all of that glittering gold of the snowflakes, things like that. Dad taught me to see, and he'd say, look at the lay of the land. Look at how it falls. Look at how it moves. Thank God for my dad, and thank God for all of those artists that I was able to see, because I'm basically a self-taught photographer.
So Barbara, you know what? I think your story too, because are you third or fourth generation Montana?
Fifth.
Wow.
Fifth. I don't have any children, but I have sisters who do.
Yeah, wow.
So
Wow.
I count them kind of. Everybody needs a good aunt.
Yeah, of course. My goodness. It's a hard work to be an aunt, really. It's hard work. Fifth generation. So, it's, to me, I think it's so fascinating. We're going to get into, I'm going to pull up your photos here for the show. But this is something that I think is just, you don't take a break. When you never stop, you just are constantly thinking. And I was telling you about my son Frank's night photography. In fact, he's here right now setting up his camera, and he's going to start taking some pictures of the night sky. And you want to talk to him about what he's doing, and he will be there to talk to you, Barbara, which is exciting.
Great. Well, poor guy, he doesn't have the black, dark skies we do up here in my part of Montana. He has to put up with all that light pollution from Denver.
Yeah. Well, did I tell you he is headed your way next year for college?
Oh, is he going to Bozeman?
He's going to go to Bozeman. Yep.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this is a part of my current fascination with photographing by the light of the moon only.
Speaking of, yes, you got to talk about this one here, Barbara, partners. And this one, boy, you have had these stunning night photos, and this is not easy.
No.
Yeah, talk about this and talk about your subject too, because people do ask about.
Well, this is an honest to God ranch girl in Paradise Valley outside of Livingston in Montana. And I got a little close to the mountains. I got all carried away, and it took quite a while. The moon was supposed to get up, according to what I had read on the internet, by about 10:30. But I was so close to the mountains that it didn't get over there until about 1:30. And it was a chilly night, but everybody was in good humor. So that worked out. And what I wanted was not just a traditional shot of her on horseback. I wanted to see her relationship with the horse, because a good horse makes for a good rancher.
Yeah. Wow.
Usually. But I have to say, I'm getting old enough now, so I hate change. And I am clearly not an advocate of working cattle or horses with a dad blasted motorcycle or ATV. Just harumph.
Yeah, that's the way anymore, though, isn't it? Let's skip over that source.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
but at any rate, I was so intrigued with the light on the clouds. If you wait long enough, but you have to be patient, you can see these changes. I don't know why they occur always, but it's one of those wonderful things about the natural world. And where I live is an area where basically we don't have much light pollution. And I always try to go to places where I won't have much. Although I wouldn't mind going up to Fairbanks and catching the,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'd love to have some of those northern lights, but that's color, and color is too seductive for me.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, I color is just, it's seductive. Black and white lets you concentrate more on composition and design in the image, I feel. That's just my personal feeling.
Well, and I zoomed in on this one to get the interaction between the rancher
Horse,
and
yeah.
the horse.
And you'll see that interaction in another one called A Good Day's Work,
Yeah, okay.
where the sky is filled with stars.
Let me pull that one up. A Good Day's Work. Here we go.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll get it full screen. Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Look at that.
And the wonderful thing about it is that I had to ask, because these exposures take somewhere around 7 to 12 seconds. So she had to stay in that position, and bless that mare's heart. That was one of my good mares. And she stood still while she had her hand on her nose there. It's a tricky deal, these by the light of the moon photographs. But I like it because, you know, when I was growing up, we went out very early in the morning to gather cattle, to work stock cattle, usually before the heat of the day. And so I was out enough to see the beauty of moonlight and stars. And so I kind of got carried away with this concept because I didn't see any other photographers doing it. And I thought, oh, I love it.
Well, there's a certain, I don't know, okay, maybe like just a romance of it. And I think,
Romance?
well, yeah. I think it's interesting, Barbara, because, okay, well, so a lot of photographers apply to the show because we're one of the few shows that also has photography. And so it's kind of rare in a big show. And so a lot of photographers, but you know what? The thing is, Barbara, and they're good, the work is good, but they kind of manufacture the cattle drive or and there's something that feels kind of commercial about it, or they're
Not
going
the real
out.
deal.
Yes. And it's a subtle thing, Barbara. It's a subtle thing. And it's something that, again, just like standing in front of Scott's work and Willie's work, there's this little edge, there's this little thing, there's this that tips it to authenticity. And your work does that. But I think it goes all the way back to your childhood. It has to. And your dad and what he instilled in you and giving you that camera and talking to you about the beauty of.
Right, the beauty. I would not call it romantic. I guess maybe because I'm kind of opposed to the use of that word to my kind of photography, because I am shooting or photographing the real deal, the pure quill life on a family ranch, not a big outfit that just has hired cowboys or hands, but the real deal, the family ranch. Greatest place in the world to raise kids and give them a sense of responsibility and the goodness of hard work. And so this is again on the family ranch.
Yeah. And these horses?
Yeah, they're all part of the family ranch.
Wow, wow. Um,
And they are born on the ranch, they die on the ranch, they work on the ranch.
they work on the ranch. Wow. Wow. Okay.
They're not going to be sold to some outfit where they go to a slaughterhouse in Mexico, God forbid, or Canada.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Barbara, Scott, Willie, I'm gonna put us on a gallery view again. I've got a bunch of comments here that I'm going to kind of go through, but this is the point of our conversation where I love to open the microphones to the three of you to ask questions of each other, comments, or whatever you have. And I'll throw out some of these comments that we've had this evening. Michael writes, the concept of color being too seductive would make a fascinating book. Barbara's use of black and white has always exuded an integrity that impresses even the most casual viewer. Every viewer always pauses in front of her work because facing the truth makes people stop and think. Well, that's really an interesting way to put it. And quite possibly, I would say the same with all three of you. And so let me open it up. Willie, Barbara, Scott, please take over.
Well, I'd like to say that I like hearing how involved Barbara and Will's parents were and how influential they were. And I tip the hat to my dad and there's my mom too, but they made me aware of art early on. I used to go to the Chicago Art Institute when I was young. And it just was kind of the go-to place where I found food for my soul. And you know, I really understand how some people don't have that. And I'm very appreciative of having my parents and my dad so influential to me. For my
Well,
career.
We're so fortunate.
We really are.
and it's something that and I'm sure both of you as well, try to pass down. I mean, I'm always trying to mentor and encourage young people. I always want friends and collectors of mine to bring their kids, no matter how old, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, so that they kind of feel like it's a language that they can participate in too. And but to me, that's what we do, is we try to teach our friends and our kids how to see and how to appreciate the world around us.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate because I have been asked to teach, and I love teaching about photography. But more importantly, just, you know, people know how to use the cameras, but it's seeing, how to see, and to see, again, not just color, go beyond that and see the design, see the composition. Where does it lead you to look in the image? All of that kind of thing. And
Right.
so I love the teaching of workshops because of that, the sharing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so let me ask all three of you this question then, because your educational backgrounds are really different. And you see kids who are talented. And I hear this question a lot. I'm asked this question a lot. Should I go to art school? It's really expensive. Should I do what kind of advice do you give kids?
You know, I think for young people trying to have a career trying to make a living being a creative is it's very challenging. It was very challenging for us. Fortunately, we're generally on the back nine, and we've dealt with most of our adversities. It's very hard to figure out how to give tangible advice to young people other than just be determined to succeed, whatever that takes. I mean, I know Barbara and Scott work our tails off. It's a 7-day a week job. You just work all the time, and when people have that kind of determination and a focus, generally they're going to figure out how to make it work for them. But it's challenging.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Put the hours in, right?
Oh,
Put the
yeah.
time in. Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, Barbara, I forgot to ask, there's a documentary being filmed on you right now. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking better late than never. I'm thrilled. They want to make it about an hour and a half
Wow.
film, not
Wow,
just a
Barbara.
little short one.
Wow.
I'm
So
assuming it's
we're
going to be in black
covering-
and white.
My photography,
Nice.
my history, and my family history, because my family was very much involved in the settling of the Montana territory. So I feel that this is honoring my family. And
Yeah.
those devils all took pictures too.
It's in your blood. It's in your blood. When is
I'm
that
awfully glad.
When is that going to be ready? When can we
It won't be ready until they're telling me the end of this coming summer.
Oh, okay.
But I have a cute little 4-minute teaser kind of a film
Okay,
that
good.
I should send to you just so you can see it.
Please do. And if I could, if I can post anything, I certainly will. There's a great little documentary on Willie.
Oh, there is. Oh, I want to see that, Willie.
We need to post that too.
Oh, Drawn to Paint.
Drawn to Paint. And
Matthew's Drawn to Paint.
And Scott, being the shy guy that he is, actually, there's a wonderful video. Can we get a hold of that one too? Of you start to finish of.
Sure.
Yeah.
My rain painting, the big one.
Yes.
Yeah, I have the pre-studies right back here.
My God. Yeah.
Large work. Yeah.
Yes.
Certainly.
Great.
I'll get that to you.
All right. So I'm going to get those posted on our website, and I'll let people know about that because that is just so much fun. That painting, watching that happen, I remember my boys and I watching it, and we ended up watching it several times. We're like, wait, what?
It goes really fast.
It does.
My nephew actually did it. He was a film student at CU at the time.
Wow.
And that it took 8 or 9 months, and we just mounted a camera on the wall, and he would it was all about editing. And yes, it's really fast. But
it's cool, but it's
full and fast, but
yeah.
I can hardly wait to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do.
Okay. So did you guys figure out who the 2 originals are in the show, who've been in the show longer than hey, Scott, do you want to take a guess?
Oh, I know. It's not me.
Really? It isn't?
It's not. Yeah. So anyway, hey, listen, I want to thank you all very much. Thank you for those of you who were able to come on tonight, and thank you for hanging with us through our little technical difficulties. And Scott, Barbara, Willie, thank you. Always a treat. Always a treat. Stay
Thank you.
safe. Oh, of course. This is such a joy.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you
Rosie.
very much,
Yeah.
Rose.
Well, this is truly a joy, and it's just so lovely to see you. And I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you in the new year at the show. And just so everybody knows, the Monday night is the preview, and there's still a mask mandate and show your vax card and or bring a mask. But if you don't have vaccination, wear a mask, of course. Let's be safe. The mask mandate will be lifted for Tuesday. We, of course, are really asking people to get vaccinated, bring your vax card. We had some masks. We have masks printed up with our logo on them. So it's going to be really cool to wear a mask all of a sudden. So anyway, please have a safe, healthy holiday. Thank you, Scott, Barbara, Willie, for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I just love you all so dearly, and happy holidays. And I will be seeing you in the new year.
Merry
Rose.
Christmas to you all, especially
you very
you, Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Take care, everybody. Good night.
Thanks. Thanks
Good
again.
night.